For months, perhaps years, there have been whispers in the back rooms of power, complaints, rumors of factional infighting in the ruling ANC, and fissures in the well-groomed image of harmony behind President Cyril Ramaphosa's presidency. These whispers were ever present, ever simmering, but they were explained away as background noise in internal politics. No one thought there would be anything. This week changed all of that. Nobody expected the soft-spoken, calculating, and sometimes fiercely partisan Gwede Mantashe to deliver the opening blow, at least not in the open. Mantashe has been seen for years as a low-key presence within the ANC, a man who worked behind the scenes to mediate egos and conflict tie-ins. He was not perceived as a hothead or a politician who would take massive risks. But before a shock parliament, that image was shattered. Mantashe looked to the speaker, cleared his throat, and with all the force of political treachery in his voice, stated, "We cannot pretend any longer that corruption is beyond the walls of this chamber when it has its origins at the highest office in the land." The air was cold. Members of parliament were struck dumb. Mantashe at first refused to name names, but the suggestion was clear. And then with calculated accuracy, he made it unmistakable that President Cyril Ramaphosa had questions to answer, not just to Parliament, but to the people of South Africa. This was no one-off political jay. It wasn't an opposition speech aimed at generating points. It was an allegation that struck to the very heart of Ramaphosa's presidency and said a great deal about the state of the ANC itself today. Mantashe had been regarded for years as one of Ramaphosa's most reliable friends, a party peacemaker, a loyal disciplinarian who kept the precarious equilibrium between combatant factions together. For him to turn the table so visibly indicates something far more profound, an intent. What this moment signifies is that the party's internal conflicts have now moved into the public sphere and the gloves are off. Confidants of Latuli House have for some time indicated increasing tensions between Ramaphosa's so-called New Dawn reformers and traditionalists or hardliners who feel the president has done nothing to purge the ANC of corruption. Others take it a step further, charging that he is part of the very rot that he vowed to eradicate. But up until this point those tensions were kept mostly in-house, with Mantashe's accusation on the record that internal tension has escalated to a nuclear level. Ramaphosa has spent most of his presidency portraying himself as the reformer, the individual who would bring integrity after the corruption so years. His was the story of steady leadership and revitalizing of the ANC. Most South Africans, exhausted from the years of state capture, had ventured to invest in cautious hope in him. He vowed honest governance, accountability, and a way forward to repair the dignity of the state. But Mantashe's words target the very core of that trust. If even Ramaphosa's closest friends now label him as corrupt, what does that reveal about the actual state of his presidency? This is not simply a political confrontation. It is an identity crisis for Ramaphosa. Is this the start of the end of his stranglehold on power? Has the tide finally turned against him? It is worth recalling that the failure scandal continues to loom over his head like a thundercloud: foreign cash stashed in sofas, unreported thefts, and shady business deals attracting international attention. Until recently, many in the ANC were prepared to stand up for him, to sweep it under the carpet, to defend the presidency at all costs. But Mantashe's intervention implies that even this protective cover is ebbing away. Why now? Why would Gwede Mantashe of all individuals stage this attack in Parliament for the whole country to see? Some analysts think it is part of a larger game of power before the next elective conference of the ANC. Mantashe might be positioning himself, or at least the faction he is aligned with, as the moral choice trying to regain legitimacy for a party losing public trust. Others explain it as retaliation, that Ramaphosa's internal cleansing went too far and this was Mantashe's means of shooting back before it was too late. Then there is the most frightening theory that Mantashe is privy to more scandals waiting to erupt and is bailing from the Ramaphosa train before it hits the rocks. In going first, he can be trying to save face at the cost of placing the president on the back foot. Timing, political insiders will tell you, is everything. And in this scenario, the timing appears calculated. Coordinated or spontaneous, the action was like a thunderclap. Parliament responded in disarray. Opposition parties lost no time in seizing the moment. Julius Malema of the EFF was seen smiling from ear to ear, evidently enjoying the drama. 4 years, he had assailed Ramaphosa with charges that he was not unlike Zuma. And now a senior ANC source had apparently confirmed his suspicions. The Democratic Alliance immediately moved for a motion of no confidence to be brought before Parliament. The MPs accused the ANC of coddling corruption for far too long and demanded that Ramaphosa's time was over. And even more revealing was the body language of ANC MPs themselves. There were some who sat in stunned silence, having been visibly shaken. Others shook their heads, refusing to believe what they had just been told. But there was a handful sprinkled through the benches who quietly clapped. That small but symbolic gesture of defiance made it plain. The ANC caucus, once so united under Ramaphosa, is now broken in ways perhaps too deep to mend. South Africa has weathered political shocks previously, but this one feels different. That's because it is not the opposition raising allegations of foul play. It's not protesters on the streets. It's not even investigative reporters revealing a concealed scandal. This time the allegation was made by Gwede Mantashe, a co-conspirator in the ANC survival plans, a loyalist turncoat on the floor of Parliament labeling his own president as corrupt. The stakes are huge. What does this mean for the ANC now? Can it weather yet another split zone near the next elections? And what of Ramaphosa himself? If he is losing his closest friends, how much longer can he continue to lead? Already speculation is rife about potential successors. Some interpret this as the first serious indication that the succession stakes have been thrown open, with different factions vying to situate themselves as the future of the party. For South Africa, the stakes are also high. Political turmoil might throw needed reforms off track, destabilize the economy, and undermine public confidence in democratic institutions. Investors are waiting in the wings, citizens are fearful, and the international community is listening. Ordinary South Africans desperate from unemployment, rolling blackouts, and climbing living expenses will view this as proof of what they always suspected, that the ANC is too busy fighting itself to effectively govern.